Hello, my peeps, and welcome back to Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves. I'm your host, Ike, and before I get too excited, I'd like to just take a moment and say thanks for being here and giving this pod a listen. It means a lot to me that you chose to use your precious time and give me and my guests your ears. Now, if after all that awesomeness, you still have the wherewithal, it'd be really cool if you shared this with someone who you think would like it, or just subscribe yourself if you already haven't. That'd be cool. So this is episode 2 of season 3, and I have a fucking headache. So I do apologize, but this intro is going to be on the rather short, curt, and deliberate side of things. Don't know how this happened. I slept more than I have the last 2 days combined, so maybe it's just, backlogging or some nonsense. I'm literally rubbing ice cubes on the left side of my head right about now. Coincidentally, I'm going to see my doctor tomorrow. It'll be my first time seeing my new doctor. This is not planned. This is not a rush job. This was just when it got planned, like 2-something weeks ago. I needed to go see a doctor for other reasons. It turns out to get a therapist, you have to go see a general practitioner because that makes all the sense in the world. But so this is very convenient if this still hurts tomorrow. But any which way, more importantly, hopefully going to snag a therapist and acupuncturist and a person that snaps your back. Crap, forgot the last one. I forgot the ists. But hopefully going to get all the ists tomorrow. Fingers crossed. Definitely took my long-ass time getting there. I should have been doing this in week 1 of my break, not week 8 or whatever it is. Any which way, better late than never. Speaking of better late than never, ended up losing a tournament in rather quick fashion yesterday. Not exactly ideal. However, had nothing better to do. Didn't really want to get back on the highway with everybody going the opposite direction. Or going the direction they wanted to go, rather. Like I said, headache. And ended up going over to this spot my father had been recommending me try out instead of Bevmo, and in which times I would go get libations, which is Total Wine. Never been, saw one on the map, was looking for some choice drinks for other reasons, and decided to stop by. Went around, can say, this is not a sponsor of the show, but Total Wine, totally dope. Had a great time walking around, it was well set up, really enjoyed it, got a bunch of fun things to try that I have had and haven't had in the past, including this thing that I'm looking on the floor right now, which is key lime pie bear. So that's probably going to suck ass, but, hopefully it doesn't. Either which way, gotta try it. Love me some key lime. Key lime pie, my favorite. But one of the things that I have been kind of meaning to get around to, and I've tried from time to time, is there's this beer that I had once in Nice, France. I say once. I was once in Nice, France, and I had it about 6 or 8 times because it was by far one of the best things I'd ever drank at that point in time. This was back in 2013. And I thought I had written it down. They didn't serve in bottles, they served it in glasses. So I didn't see what the bottle looked like, but they told me, and I believe what I ordered on the menu was Gomet. It was Gomet. Or that's what I recall. And just, had a moment in this awesome libation, this lavish libation library, as I'll now refer to Total Wine because that was fun. Hey, where can I get, have you guys heard, you guys carry this beer? And the guy was like, well, it's not in our system. Here, let me look at my phone. He's digging around, looking around, and he thought I might have misspelled it. And I'll pull up the page I now have on my phone, which he believes it is actually spelled Gamote, because it is a beer in France. And I don't remember if it's the south or north of France, but it's a beer in France. The hue looked as I remembered it, and I am very excited to see if I can get a hold of this. If you have any leads on such libations, hit me up at twitter.com/likeikes or email me at passionandpeevespodcast@gmail.com. I would love to hear it. This has been not a lifelong goal, but a decade-long search for the refreshment of my dreams. Something that I hope will be refreshing to y'all is this interview I had with my guest, Joe BADIALI. Fantastic fellow. Met him playing Magique, as I do a shocking amount of guests, However, like most magical guests I have, that's not what we're talking about. Want to know what we're talking about? Too bad! Stick around and listen. Take it away, past me. Alright, folks. I'm here with a man who breathes air every day. He came in second out of 10 people for store credit behind yours truly at a local magic tournament and once lost 70 pounds in 3.5 months. It's Joe BADIALI!
Hey.
What's going on, man?
Not much. Thought I'd sit down and have a podcast with my new pal. What about you?
Same. Oddly enough.
Same. Wow, we should totally be friends.
Well, first you got to tell me this magical secret of losing 70 pounds in 3.5 months.
Oh man, that was a while ago. That was coming up on 20 years ago, actually. Yeah, I loved cereal. I loved soda. And I didn't care much about what I looked like, but at a certain time I was like, you know what? I kind of do care about what I look like. And I was like, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to go for it. And I went to a nutritionist. I knew if I paid for it, I would actually stick to it. And they had this whole crash diet thing. They were like, no salt, no carb, no fat, take Excedrin for headaches. Here's some supplements and appetite suppressants. And I'm like, cool, rock and roll. And I was like 21, 22, so it was pretty easy to get my metabolism going. And yeah, I just stuck to it and did it. And in 3.5 months, I was much smaller. And then I actually kept going past my recommended weight. And they were like, it's time to stop now. And I'm like, you shouldn't have taught me how to do this. So I'm a very obsessive person, and I took it pretty far. But I'm all normal now. I'm not like I don't starve myself for days or anything. But
so
yeah.
What did you do different from before, and what did you do different from the diet to maintain and not lose weight and not go like gain more weight after you kind of got to the amount that you wanted?
So the biggest thing was like I went back to eating more like what I ate before, but the biggest thing for me was cutting out like soda and that kind of stuff, and then not eating late. I absolutely refused for a decade to eat within 6 hours of going to sleep, to the point where if I did, I would stay up for 6 hours and wait, which from what I understand is actually somewhat of a myth now with this, all the intermittent fasting and things like that. But eating right when you wake up as well to get your metabolism rocking. And if you have any fat, anything bad, it should be in the beginning of the day. And the longer the day goes, the lighter your meals go. And that, I stuck to that for a long time. And then I kind of loosened up and, I didn't put all the weight back on, but I'm not emaciated anymore. And I was pretty skinny. I'm 5'9". I got down to less than 130 at a certain point. So, yep, I went for it and did it.
Would you say that's the decision in your life that you're most proud of making, or is there one that supersedes that?
That's a pretty good one. And if you asked me back then, I'd absolutely would have been the answer. But since then, I think I could probably safely say that I'm pretty proud that I decided to follow a dream, basically. I had lived in Florida at the time, and after I graduated from school, I went to film school, I kind of sent out fax letters. I'll back up a little bit and say I wanted to be a prosthetic special effects makeup artist, and I didn't know how to get in. I had no idea. So I went online and found out through various websites where movies were shooting and what they were involved in. And at the time, Zombieland, the first Rob Zombie Halloween, and the Crazies, the Romero remake, they were all shooting at the same time in Georgia. So I found out the companies that were responsible for the effects on those movies, and I sent faxes that were no header, no nothing professional, like big crayon writing that just said, I'll bust my ass for free. And one of the guys thought it was funny, and he called me, and he was like, I don't know what I can do because of union stuff, but if I can make it happen, I will. Let me get on the ground, talk to producers, and if you really want to come up, we'll do it. And he called me 2 days before graduation. He had ended up calling me and said, pack your shit and let's go. And I was like, my mom really wanted to see me graduate. Can I come in 2 days? And he was like, huh? Well, yeah, okay. So luckily, my last name begins with a B. I was one of the first to get my diploma. I didn't watch anybody else graduate. I got the diploma. I had a quick lunch with my mom, and I packed my shit and went. I drove right up there, got myself a motel, and I worked for free. And it was awesome. Got to be on a movie set. I learned everything that almost everything I know by now, starting out anyways, from the 4 guys I worked with there. And then after that, I moved out to California with even less money than I had before. And somehow I made it. I couch surfed. I worked for minimum wage in these shops. I had to get a couple of regular side jobs. Delivering pizza in West Hollywood was interesting. I got more parking tickets than I made tips because there's nowhere to park. And that sucked. They showed me how to break the meters, though. You can't do it anymore, but if you put a nickel or a penny wrapped in a receipt and shove it in the meter, it'll fail the meter, and they can't legally ticket you. So I spent some of my tips failing parking meters all over West Hollywood. But yeah, man, it was good, and I'm pretty proud. I don't even know if I could do something like that again at my age now, but having no money and nothing but a shirt on my back and jumping in a car, awesome road trip, and doing what I got to do, and sleeping with some friends, sleeping in their houses that I knew from college. So yeah, it's good stuff.
What's your favorite meal to make just for yourself?
Ooh. I'm pretty good at making pasta and pasta variants. Sometimes I will, saute up some, what is it called? When the chicken, marsala. Marsala is good. Sometimes I'll cook with a bunch of soy sauce and kind of marinate everything. And then sometimes I'll go full Italian, always with some protein of some sort. Yeah, I do enjoy cooking, but it's always like a pasta variant or a stir fry because it's so easy and you can't really mess it up. And I usually end up doing good, though I won't lie. I had a couple mishaps and threw some stuff away in my time. But for the most part, I like to get creative, and that's my deal with that.
Is the reason it's pasta from like growing up in your house? Is it pasta was just your favorite dish? Where is pasta for you?
It is likely from that. I'm not full. My last name is very Italian, but I'm not full Italian. But I was raised Italian. My grandma was Portuguese Italian, and my mother, my grandmother, Jesus, my dad was Portuguese Italian, and my mother's French Irish. But we definitely were raised on pasta because my nana was the only grandparent I had growing up, and we had her cookbook, her recipes, and my dad loves it. So by proxy. I ate it a lot, and I still love it. Super easy to make, and it's kind of a vehicle, a tasty, delectable vehicle for whatever flavors you want to put in it.
Heck yeah. If you could check your life stats, what non-requisite activity do you think you have the most amount of hours logged in on?
Oh, this might be an embarrassing answer. Probably nothing proactive, I guess. A lot of game. If we summed up game time into one category between video games and poker and card games and that kind of thing, I'd probably see a number I don't like. I mean, PlayStation already does that. They'll be like, you logged 170 hours on this game or 1,200, and you put them together and you're like, I've actually spent an entire year of my life, 24 hours a day, holding this controller, leveling this sorceress. And then you don't want to think about it. So you're like, no, I won't look at that number anymore. Yeah. So yeah, that.
Do you have a favorite myth that you like to or most commonly dispel?
Yeah, actually. It's to do with deja vu. A lot of people will talk about it and, consider it some kind of foresight or, evidence of fate and the fact that you might not be in control of your own life. And for me, it's always like this asinine thing when I have it too, don't get me wrong. But it's always some like asinine thing like, holy crap, I had a dream that the pencil was over there on the floor and you were sitting there smoking a cigarette. Like, it's never like, we're going to crash. Trust me, I had a dream. And I once read an answer to it that made more sense than anything I've ever heard. And I guess they had done some studies, and the theory was that your current experience, for some reason, glitch in your brain, whatever you want to call it, it skips going into your short-term memory and jumps right to long-term. So you suddenly feel like you've experienced what you're experiencing before. And I'm like, that makes so much sense that it couldn't possibly be anything else. And when people start talking, I love throwing that at them because they're like, God damn, that does make a lot of sense.
It's just science, man.
Yeah, it's just science.
All right, to take it to a disingenuous, highfalutin circumstance, if you were to ever take part in a WWF-styled event, what would your walkout song be?
I think I have a couple choices for this. I can give you a serious song and a joke song, which would probably be the one I would pick naturally if you'd like.
Joke song, hit us.
Joke song? All right, I stole this one a little bit, but it's Why Can't We Be Friends? That Simpsons episode. It's so funny. When Homer has to fight Drederick Tatum, and Drederick Tatum has like a Tupac song or like a really violent rap song, and then Homer comes out and it's Why Can't We Be Friends? I love that moment. And I think I'd probably copy that.
That's awesome.
Or you could do like Bop or something. And yeah.
Oh, goodness.
I would have
taking me back to my childhood.
Oh,
holy
God, right?
Shit.
Awful childhood.
Fucking Hansons.
Cars for Kids be damned. Cars for Kids would be another awesome intro.
Well, you brought up The Simpsons. Do you have a favorite book, comic, or cartoon that would either be the best or worst choice for a big screen adaptation?
Yeah, and I hope that they actually make this someday. But I don't know if you're familiar with Warren Ellis, but he did a book called Transmetropolitan, 9 volumes if you're into the graphic novel thing, which I think equates to like 60 almost issues, 54 maybe. It doesn't age. It's amazing. It's
I bought this for my brother for Christmas.
It is my sometimes it's my favorite. The Preacher novels are probably my favorite. I've read and reread those countless times.
Is this by the same author, right? Warren Ellis?
That one is Garth Ennis, Preacher. And they did make a show out of it.
Yeah.
I didn't really like it.
Oh, bummer.
I mean, I liked it, but not as much as the book.
Yeah, of course.
And I actually did a makeup of a character in the book Preacher, the Saint of Killers, if you're familiar with the book at all. That character is, I love it. Love reading it. But yeah, Transmetropolitan would make such a good... It wouldn't be a movie. It couldn't be. There's just so much to it. But the way that TV shows are now, the production value, it's like better than movies. The writing is better. And you have a chance to really deep dive into the characters themselves. And yeah, TV has, in the last decade, superseded movies, especially with the accessibility of it as far as quality, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But Transmetropolitan, I hope they do it someday, and I hope they do it right.
What's the proudest accomplishment that you have that the fewest people know of?
This is actually kind of a cool story.
Hell yeah.
I'm a cat man. I have 3 boys. I'm a cat man, skiing to death. But I love cats, and I have 3. One of them is kind of an accidental cat that I inherited, but I love him. And the reason why I love him is because I was watching him for someone, and he got out. And I tried to chase him, which apparently you're not supposed to do. And he ran away. He's a skittish cat. I didn't see heads or tails of him literally for about 3 months. But I did absolutely everything I could to find this cat every day. It was during COVID, so I had all the time in the world. I called a friend of mine, and I'm like, dude, I need your help. You've got to come find this cat. Because it was my ex-girlfriend's cat, who we were still on good terms. So, I thought I'd find him in a few days, or he'd come back. We did the flyer thing. I slept outside because I thought he might know my scent. I hung like tuna fish and stuff, food outside all the time. I called a friend of mine who is a catch and release kind of dude. They go around and catch stray cats and neuter them and send them on their way. And he had humane traps. So I borrowed 3 traps from him, and he told me like the best way to do it. And I planted them all over the neighborhood. I must have caught 10 other cats, 3 raccoons, 2 possums. Never Bagel. Bagel is the name of the cat. Never Bagel. And, but, you know, check the vet, or not the vet, the shelter every other day. You know, jumping into storm drains. Me and my friend would get hits on the flyers sometimes. And I'm sorry the story's going long, but it is.
No, this is awesome.
Okay. So we'd get hits on the flyers, and I might get a picture occasionally from them. And I would know in my heart that it wasn't him, but I wouldn't be able to help myself. I'd have to go check the area. And so we'd get in a car, we'd put the trap out, and then we'd like have coffee and sit in the car like a stakeout, like waiting for the cat. And there was one time
Stakeout for Bagel.
It was. I felt like stakeout for Bagel. We'd have like coffee, sit there talking, and one night we had to order food, and a car came by to deliver it, and I like had to flash my lights at him, and he came up to us and rolled down the window, and we just like handed the food through the window, and it was like, get out of here, you're blowing our cover. We eventually stopped like the hard look, because it was, you know, and this is my friend's words. He was like, dude, at a certain point, it's up to the cat. Like it's been a long time. If he's going to come back, it's going to come back. And I'm like, it sucks. Cause I was really guilt ridden over this, and not just because it was somebody else's cat. Well, maybe more so, but either way, I just love cats. I always wondered where he was and what he was doing. Felt like I failed him. And then about 3 months go by, I had about given up. And then I got a hit on the flyer and a picture, and it was the first time ever that I was like, that is him. Holy crap, he's still alive. Because there was coyote dens around my place.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, I actually went to go check the coyote dens during the daytime for remains or something, but I suspected they wouldn't be able to catch this cat because he's on his shit. He's 1 year old, and he does not let things near him except for me. Anyways, I knew it was him, and I was like, holy crap, that's him. Can I come to your place and look for him and maybe set a trap where you say you've been leaving him food? And she was like, absolutely. And she was really sweet. She put me on like a text chain with the whole apartment complex and was like, if you see this guy, don't worry about him. He's looking for his cat. If you see his cat, text this phone number, and he's going to put a little trap in our garage to try to get him. And like I planned this. I put some, you know, tuna fish there for one night with no trap so that he would know it was safe. And then the next night I set a trap, covered it with blankets, put it in front of this car. So it just looked like a pile of blankets and smelled all fishy. And I checked it at 6 a.m. and the little bastard was in there. And I think I cried a little bit. I called my ex immediately. He was all skinny and scared because he didn't know what was going on. I felt really bad, but I was also so happy. And that's like a moment in my life when I realized that I didn't know what it meant to be truly grateful for something, because at that moment I knew what it felt like. And I immediately took him to the vet, and I was like, do not let him out. Check him, make sure he's fine. And they took him back. They cleaned him up. They checked him. He was totally fine. And when they gave him back to me in the waiting room, he had calmed down, and he remembered who I was. And now he's my little shadow. I think he knows I saved him, and he's my pal. Yeah, he's my secret. He's my secret favorite. The other cats might be listening. I don't want to say it too loud. But yeah, that I can say I'm most proud secret accomplishment for sure.
Hell yeah. Well, to go from something so lovely to something so laughable, what's the silliest non-religious thing that you believed as a child that you look back on and giggle?
A little palate cleanser. All right. I actually don't have too many of those outside the obvious, you know, Santa, etc. But no, hopefully no kids listen. I mean, Santa's real. You can cut that. I would probably have to give that to the night that I was up all night after watching the movie Fire in the Sky, because I knew at that moment that aliens were coming for me. because because I watched that movie, I knew that they knew and they would come abduct me. I kept my mom up all
alien
night.
version of The Ring. It's like you watched
Pretty much, dude. Fire in the Sky holds up, man. That's a good movie, and that abduction scene is terrifying. Nobody has topped it yet. Super creative. The alien makeups are really cool. That scene where he's wakes up in the tube place in his, I don't know what he's in, a pod where he's like rotting, and then he sees other people that are getting eaten alive by something who have been there. Yeah, I kept my mom up all night. I was terrified. I knew it was going to happen. What if they get me? Like, I don't think that's going to happen, honey. So now I do obviously think that's pretty funny. Although if I got abducted by cooler aliens than them, I might be okay with it. But not those ones. Those ones, no thanks.
Well, to go from something from something so frightening and absurd to something a little bit more realistic and problematic, what's your biggest everyday temptation?
Oh, I mean, something I actually avoid or something I give into?
Yes.
Cigarettes, for sure. I should not be doing that very often or much longer. It's one of those things that you just have to live with a healthy case of denial, because it will kill you. But
have you ever tried quitting?
I actually did quit once in my life. When I was 24, I quit for 10 years. And then I picked it up right before COVID, because it was one of those like, yeah, I'll have one. It'll be cool. And then, nope, it wasn't cool.
Yeah, you thought you'd bested the nicotine devil.
Yeah, no, I should have known that my personality was not okay to do that.
Personality or not, that's talking to. It's very. I remember I had this amazing moment where I've had a couple times in my life where I thought nicotine. I've never smoked cigarettes. I'm very fortunate. I never got bit by that bug. I was in a household where it was very much, demonized, and rightfully so, it turns out. But I've had two moments in my life where I had like these hyper watershed moments involving cigarettes. The one was I thought I was hot shit in my 20s, and I wanted to take a bet that I could smoke for a month and then quit cold turkey to prove all these idiots wrong. Because I knew so well, like 24 or something like that, I'm hot shit. I said that to a friend of mine who was the most hippie vegan motherfucker I've ever known. I've never seen anything bother him, anything raise his ire. He literally slapped me in the face. He goes, "Shut the fuck up." I was like, oh, okay. He goes, "You do not know what you're talking about." He goes, "Do not ever do that and never say that to anyone, you fucking moron." I was like, okay.
Wow, that is some passion.
Yeah.
And he probably just saved
saved my
lungs.
life. Yeah,
maybe your life, your lungs. It is not an easy thing to quit.
Yeah.
In fact, that question has inspired me to smoke a cigarette right now. That's terrible, but I am.
So fast forward 5 or so years, maybe a little bit longer. I was working in this casino in like North Bay, California. And I was working the graveyard shift. I'm dealing to this guy at like 4 a.m. He's the only guy there, and I'm the only dealer there. He's a pretty cool guy, and he's like smoking. And we just get in between like changing cards and, whatnot. We just get to chatting. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about just life and stuff like that. And he just casually drops that he quit meth, and the reason he got addicted to he didn't use the word addicted, but the reason he used meth was because he could not stand the Bay Area public transit. Like being on BART was like killing him. He's like, I had to like pick up meth to like be able to get to work, like taking BART. I was like, Jesus Christ, like that's insane. And he tells me this tale and then lights up a cigarette. I was like, quit meth was easy, huh? But, he's like, yeah, quit meth. Like the second I got my car back, I could drive to work. Quit meth, not a problem. I was like, wow, quit meth so easy. But these cigarettes, he goes, oh, they're impossible.
It's a whole different demon.
Yeah, I was like, holy shit. Like meth, the fucking world killer, easy as hell. But like, this thing that, he knows is killing him. He's like, could never quit it. tried like a bunch of times, done all the things. Nope, never happening. I'm just like, holy fucking shit. This is like, yeah, it's a real motherfucker. For anybody out there who's like, maybe, no.
Don't do it. Don't pick up a vape. Don't do it. Don't do it. It's awful. Yeah, I had to get scared to quit the first time. I had to have a scare. Otherwise, I never would have.
What was was the scare someone else, or was it something in your life?
It was something to me, and it ended up actually not being what I thought it was, but it got me to quit either way.
What was it? What did you think it was?
I used to go to a lot of metal and punk rock shows, and I was the stage dive crowd surf kid, and sometimes in the mosh pit, but I wasn't really big enough, and I would get my ass kicked. But when you're a kid, it's kind of fun. But this one show, I was super rowdy, covered in sweat, and the next day I woke up and I was having trouble breathing. I couldn't take a breath without it hurting. And I was like, oh man, I overexerted myself, and cigarettes, it's finally caught up with me. There's nothing I can do now. I have to quit. And retrospectively, I just pulled a chest muscle, but I never knew that. I never knew what that felt like, but I really thought like it's the big K. The cancer has got me. And I did the big K is a Metalocalypse reference. I
love it.
Yeah, I did 10 a day for a month, 5 a day for a month, and just stopped. I would do the occasional when I'm drinking cigarette, but ultimately that started tasting bad and making me physically feel bad. So I just quit. And then 10 years went by and I was like, I kind of want one of those. And that was dumb. And that was about 4 years ago now, maybe 5. So I'm like, the denial, you start telling yourself things like, I'll quit eventually. That's the most common. I'll quit eventually.
Yeah.
But not now. I got some time before it kills me. But it's one of those things that, maybe in the way that meth is probably much more noticeably devastating to your life immediately. Yeah. Maybe it's like, ooh, no, this is bad. But cigarettes, you can slide for a while.
It's the lukewarm frog kind of bad. Of just like, no, like, it's easy to buy. It's not illegal. It's not, publicly demonized. It looks way cooler.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I really wish. I had this discussion with a friend of mine and past guest Lafayette the other day. The audacity and the idea that Dare pushed that smoking didn't look cool killed any hope of that ever succeeding.
Oh, yeah.
Smoking looks cool. If you don't think so, you're a fucking idiot.
Yeah,
it looks fucking awesome. You look like a dragon in a noir movie. You look cool.
Yeah,
deal with it. It looks awesome.
That. You do look cool.
This. It's such a stupid, preposterous thing that these like centrist, hoity-toity morons told it doesn't look cool. Yeah, it fucking does. You're full of shit, and they see it and they know it looks cool. Even if you said it didn't, one, it adds a layer of cool, but also they know you're wrong. Stop saying it doesn't look cool. Any parent out there is this. If you want to get your kids from stop smoking, take them to somebody who smoked for 20 years, couldn't figure out a way to quit. They will burn that into your kid's brain. Those are the people you need to be like, I can't breathe. I once saw a guy, I was playing Magic at a shop when I was like 16 or something like that. The guy had a cold. It was raining outside. He is coughing up a lung and was so addicted that he needed to go outside and smoke in the rain with a cold and a cough.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much of a motherfucker it is. Even when he knows it's going to, like, flare that up and he's going to cough up more, he still has to do it because he's, like, going through withdrawals.
Yeah. Like, it'll keep you sick longer. Those colds definitely, it
doesn't help with that all bad.
You'll be sick an extra couple days, but you'll be okay with it because you have to be. You do smoke less though, and your throat's all sore and everything. Like, yeah, it does help you. It probably is a good time to start quitting if you get sick. But yeah, no, those, and the people with the holes in their throats and all that stuff. And I've actually personally, not to get too dark, I've literally watched somebody die of lung cancer, and it is awful. It's the last cancer I would pick to get. Not that hopefully I don't ever have to have that decision. Like, what's on the menu today?
The devil rocks up in a hallway.
Not lung cancer. Yeah. Give me foot cancer or something. I can deal with that.
Cancer. That's the medical term.
Yeah, the Dare program. There's a reason the Dare program isn't around anymore.
Yes,
they started realizing that all it was doing was showing kids what they were and how to get it. And for me personally, like, I was looking at it thinking, Like, that guy's selling all his stuff for that. That has got to be good.
That shit's fire.
Yeah, I'm going to try it one day, but I won't be that guy.
Yeah, I remember the Dare speech that I remember hearing was this guy talking about doing PCP, and it just sounded like Superman steroids, and I was like, I mean, you're saying it's bad, but it sounds fucking cool.
Yeah.
Like, you kicked a guy's head off? Like, yeah, I'm interested. Like, that doesn't make me not want to do it. That makes me want to try it at least once.
Exactly. You know, what are the odds that it'll end up being a problem for you?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So while we're on the topic of despair and life-altering circumstances, do you have a piece of advice you got that you think was either the best or most memorable?
Yeah, I've probably been given a lot of advice in my life that I didn't listen to. But there's one, it's not like an amazing piece of advice, but the way I got it, actually, I remembered it. I think I was home for a funeral, and you run into a lot of people that you don't otherwise see at funerals, family, friends. And my old neighbor was there, and me and him never got along because me and his kid never got along. So we kind of hated each other. He didn't like me. I was this little punk ass kid, and you know, that was that. But I was older now when I saw him, and he happened to be sitting next to me, and he was, "Hey, how's it going? What you doing? What's going on? What's going on back home?" And at the time, I had been talking to a girl who, and I'm usually the kind of person that won't. I love my personal time so much that I'm like, I really need to be convinced to pursue a relationship. And it has to be painfully obvious, too, that the person is interested in me before I'll throw myself out there. And so I told him that, there was a girl that I was thinking of starting to date. I knew she liked me, blah, 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 but I don't know. And he was kind of like, dude, just jump in both feet forward. What's the worst that could happen, man? It could be the best thing in your life. And if it's not, oh, well, get out of there. And I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And I didn't say this, but I'm like, and coming from you, it's weird. Like the old guy that, we don't get along. We're two totally different people. And maybe it was because I was at a funeral for one of my family members, but he decided to throw this advice on me. Or maybe he hated me and knew that he wanted to throw me into a potentially bad situation. I don't know. But I took the advice and I went with it. And even though that relationship did crash and burn, and everyone since then, I still was struck by the advice coming from that particular person, and I've kind of carried it with me, and I always remembered it. And yeah, nowadays I'm like, well, yeah, what's the worst can happen? You can always leave. You can, whatever, man, just see where life takes you. And that's what that advice ultimately translates into. So yeah, I always remembered that for some reason. Probably all those reasons I just gave you.
Well, kind of hearkening back in a weird sort of way, is there a poor man luxury that you still enjoy to this day?
Poor man luxury. Define.
For me, it's like Kraft mac and cheese, or
Okay.
especially like chili mac, like something that when you were down on your luck, when you didn't have much more than $1 to your name, you could have it and feel like you were like kind of living the Ritz for a moment.
I mean, ramen noodle did pop into my head when you said poor man luxury, but I also don't eat it anymore. I don't know. Nothing off the top of my head, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Let's go with no, ramen noodle sounds great. I mean, you don't have to necessarily have it. Like on regular, I can't remember the last time I made myself Kraft mac and cheese, but I know it's still like one of my favorite poor man luxuries. What kind of ramen are we doing? Are we doing cup of noodle? Are we doing literal top ramen? It comes in that bag that every kid that I knew growing up would break up and just eat raw and throw it with a flavor pack.
The fucking hard square of noodles. Yeah, that's how I got it. And it's actually kind of funny because I used to use one bag for the noodles, but then I would take all the flavors and put them into the same thing of noodles. So I would have like creamy chicken, sriracha spice, this and that, but then I'd be left with a bunch of plain noodles. But at the time, all the flavors together, and I was like, this is the shit, man. This is it. So yeah, I guess that could be my poor man luxury. But then
you made the suicide top ramen.
Exactly, the suicide slushies that ended up just being a black mess of
sugar and ice.
Yeah, so I guess ramen noodle, though I have not partaken in quite some time.
What's the last most memorable dream you had?
Ooh. I don't remember the last dream, but I do remember a dream that I had. It might be over a year ago now, but it was one of those dreams that feels like forever, and it feels like life. It's actually kind of a sad one, but I remember having to go to the hospital to get something checked out, and it turned out that I was either stage 3 or stage 4 cancer, and I was
It was foot cancer though, right?
I'm sorry?
It was foot cancer though, right?
Well, I might not have remembered the dream. So I would have just hacked it off and gone about my business. No, this one was something else. It probably lung cancer, something that was going to kill me.
Yeah.
And the way I feel about it in reality, not the dream. I think if someone handed me a terminal diagnosis, I wouldn't spend the last months of my life trying to fight it with chemo and making my life more miserable. So then would come the phone call to parents or whoever, like, hey, I'm going to die and I'm not going to do anything about it. And then you'll have to deal with, all of that. And this was what my dream was about. It was about, I have to make this phone call and I have to tell them that I'm just going to do my, final death plan, because I got about 3 months left that I could actually walk around, and then I'm going to be in hospice. And it was all very real. I had to make the call, and my parents were half understanding, half not. And it was forever. Like in the dream, I had the entire day to decide if I was even going to tell anybody. Like, go to sleep, wake up. It was all very real. And when I woke up, it was like, holy fucking shit, thank God. And then I probably smoked a cigarette.
And with that little bit of catharsis,
You're right.
We're going to throw it to a commercial break. But before that, if you could have the listeners of this podcast hear one song of your choosing, which would it be?
I could give it to the whole band, but it's a song called Bear Away, Bear Away, by a band called the Murder City Devils. And I can't say enough good things about this band's entire catalog, but I'm going to give it to that song. I have that song tattooed across my knuckles for a few reasons, but I highly recommend that track. Good cut.
Sick. All right, and with that, we're going to throw it to our first break. Feel free to stick around and enjoy this totally real commercial, or take a minute to enjoy Bear Away by the Murder City Devils. The Murder City Devils. Blah, blah, blah. Or if you really wanted to hear a song from a previous episode, check out the playlist on Spotify. Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves Podcast Song Rex. It's a long title, I know. Don't worry, there's a link in the description. Either way, see you in a jiffy. Do you ever find yourself sitting around with an emptiness inside your soul, or larger than preferred vacuous space? Would you like to change that? I thought so. Now introducing Stuff. For when you have nothing to do but important things. Stuff. For when you're lacking personality and intrigue. Stuff. When the world has taken a pickaxe-sized chunk out of your heart. Stuff. And if Stuff no longer fulfills these needs, please don't hesitate to look into our life-enhancing product, Addiction. Welcome back, everybody. So, Joe, what is your passion that you brought with you today?
Oh, I bring it with me every day because I'm that passionate about it. I must give that to my career. Doing prosthetic makeup and makeup effects for film and television. I wasn't one of those kids who grew up spilling latex on his parents' floor or anything like that. I actually got into it much later because I was a horror movie fan, But at a certain point, I kind of noticed I was watching behind the scenes much more than I was watching movies. And I decided to give it a go. And sorry, I turned away from the mic when I said that. I decided to give it a go. And, here I am today. And it's a cool job, the one I always wanted. It's the thing I slept on couches for and ate ramen noodles for, and finally got my union card, and I did it. So yeah, that's my passion.
So you said you didn't get into it when you were a kid. It was, it sounds like almost like late adolescence from
Actually,
watching.
more like early 20s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you're a big horror movie fan. What were some of the horror movies and the behind the scenes that really got you intrigued? And that we talking like John Carpenter's The Thing?
I mean, that's definitely a big one. That's legendary and
Mac Daddy?
Still considered by many, especially in the makeup community, to be the best of all time.
How does random aside, because it is so polarizingly different. How does the makeup community feel about the new Thing that was made? I think like the last 5 or 10 years.
Awful. We all hate it.
Okay, good.
I actually remember going to see it while I was on a movie in Virginia. I was working on the Spielberg Lincoln movie at the time, and the Thing came out during that, and me and a few guys were like, we're going to do it. Let's go see it. I can't remember if we were excited or apprehensive. The Dawn of the Dead remake, to have a little aside, was like the beginning of the remakes of the 70s, 80s movies. And at the time, that caught a lot of flack because that is probably it's definitely my favorite horror movie. It's the thing that made me want to, it kind of opened my eyes to a world of other movies, was Romero's Dawn of the Dead. And so when that remake was starting, everyone was kind of like, shit, they shouldn't remake it. Don't touch this classic. You're going to ruin it. But it actually ended up being quite good. So, back to that, I don't remember if we felt, good or bad about the Thing, but we definitely wanted to go see it. And we all hated it. And I remember we sat through the credits, the lights came back on in the theater, and the guy going by brushing up the Thing, and he was kind of like, guys, the movie's over. And none of us spoke. None of us moved. And one of my friends was kind of like, oh, it's over. We were waiting for it to start. And that kind of broke the silence, and everyone left. I do happen to know that a lot of cool things were made for that movie.
Yeah, they changed it.
They didn't use any of them. They CG'd over everything.
Yeah, they had a lot of practicals. I know a little bit of behind the scenes on this one. They had a fair amount of practicals made, and then there was a decision from some very big brains higher up that they were going to do it all in CGI.
Yeah.
And then the final product is as it stands.
Yeah, it's awful. And it doesn't even have the movie itself. The Thing is really good. It does a great job of being atmospheric and all the distrust between the guys, and it's a tense movie even without the makeup effects. But the makeup effects push it over the mark. And back then they gave people time to do those things. That the Thing was shot entirely without effects at first, and then they had 3 months to shoot all the makeup effects elsewhere, as far as I understand it. So time was just given, and back then there wasn't really another way to do it, and the resets on some of those things were insane. Like, it couldn't even be done twice a day. The scene where the guy's stomach breaks open and bites the dude's arms off. Yeah. The rumor is that Carpenter was like, okay, reset it, and Bottin was like, all right, I need 6 hours or something like that. And they're like, what? It's like, dude, I don't know what to tell you, but that's what it is. And back then, that's just the way it was. Now they, everything's fast, cheap. We're going to do it in one take, and if it doesn't work, we'll fix it in post, and that's that, And it allows for people to not make decisions prior to the shot or even during the shot, because they know they can just deal with it later, but then it ends up looking bad. I think people, and myself included for sure, and even people who aren't in the business, would rather see a bad edge or a seam on the side of a suit than something that looks like a video game stuck into a movie any day of the week. Yeah. And I know that actors don't like to play across from green things, they want to hold the thing in their hand. So, it's things have come a long way, but for us, it's become kind of a different animal, and not necessarily in a good way. We just don't have the time anymore.
Yeah.
most of the time. Sometimes you get lucky. Usually you don't.
So what? So you're going out. You've seen Romero's Dawn of the Dead, the original thing. Was there one behind the scenes where it really did click for you though, or was it just this, this all of this grandeur of the the '70s horror flicks?
Um, 70s, 80s for sure. I think the 80s more so because that's where like the thing that got me into it was the video nasties, all the movies that were banned. And at a young age, I was like, a banned movie? I didn't know that was a thing. And I sought them all out. I got like bootlegs and
Awesome.
back when there was, let me see, it was Shriek Show, Anchor Bay, Blue Underground. These companies were putting out big double disc versions of all these movies, and some things were in print, out of print. There was a lot of trading going on the internet. It was a really cool time. It was kind of like tape trading for bands in the 90s. You would trade copies of stuff to people and send the files, burn the disc. Definitely dating myself now. But yeah, I don't know if it was any particular one. I think at a horror convention, I bought some bootleg behind the scenes stuff. Tom Savini had a couple for Creep Show and Day of the Dead. Let me see what else. In more recent history, there was like a Planet Terror behind the scenes one. I think I recall that one being pretty good. Yeah, but it just opened like a door for me because I didn't think about that kind of stuff ever in terms of doing it. And I know that the original guys who kind of were the generation, like Rick Baker started, that kind of thing where, I mean, granted, Dick Smith and John Chambers and people were doing this well before him, but he took it to a different level with American Werewolf, and then Thriller. They made one of the first, or if not the first, behind the scenes of how they did the Thriller music video, and that, for a lot of people back then, was the first time they ever got to see, like, oh, that's how you did that. Or that's how you can do that, or that's how I can make this look better. Because nobody knew. Dick Smith had a course, but it was all in paper, and sometimes he wouldn't accept students. And he lived in New York. Nowadays, everyone can just type a button and look it up, and I've definitely been a part of that generation too, for the most part. But that wasn't always around. So I guess in that way I was inspired by more modern behind the scenes, but Thriller was the first time that created like an explosion in the 80s of people being able to have access to the how-to. That was a kind of a first of its kind. So yeah, that inspired me, that kind of thing, just I guess at a later age. I don't know. I was just a typical kid who didn't, I just wanted to be a kid. I wanted to fuck off. I wanted to do things. I guess.
So you get inspired by that. You went to film school for after that? Is that, or were you already going to film school at that point?
I went to film school after that. I didn't want to go to a makeup school in particular because even though I loved it, I didn't know if I'd love doing it. So I kind of didn't want to put all my eggs in one makeup-y basket. But I did practice on my own during film school, and anybody there doing movies, I would do the effects for them if I could, and I would do side projects. And I think I actually got Dick Smith's course while I was there. I ordered away for it. At least he has one where you have to do like an introductory, like you got to prove to him that you're worth teaching. And I did that throughout my time there, though I never turned it into him. I kind of wanted the knowledge that was in that. And I couldn't afford, the main course was like $1,500 or something. And to me back then, that was a big deal. So I was happy paying $350 for the little intro how-to one. I got by with that. But yeah, I did ultimately end up doing makeup. I don't regret going to film school in particular. I could have got away without doing it, but it was a fun experience. Still paying off those bills, but it was a fun experience.
Would you say that when you started off, when you were looking into this, that you got to where you'd hoped to get to? Or is there somewhere did you hope a little shallow, a little deep? Where did you think you were going to end up, or hoped you were going to end up when you first started, like kind of like really pushing, ordering this $350, just a little starter kind of situation, going to film school, where did you think that, or hope that you were going to end up at the end of all of this?
I hoped I would end up with a union card in the makeup union, or in the very least living in LA doing this for a living. And I actually did get there. And that's what I'm doing. I didn't have like I want to be the best, I want to win an Oscar, like that kind of stuff never was in my head. And that was such a lofty goal, especially from somebody who had never done makeup. I didn't know anything about it. I just kind of bashed my way through it during college. Because I thought it would be a cool job, and it is a cool job. And I definitely got much deeper into it after I moved, fully dedicated myself to every aspect of it. I slept in a lot of shops, work for free all over the place, just to learn. And it is that kind of job. You do have to put in the time and prove you're worth teaching. Just like, Dick Smith wouldn't take your money if he didn't think you were worth his time. But if you were, he was very giving with information, and that's kind of how everybody is. Some people do want to keep their secrets, and they don't want to tell how they did that and blah, blah, blah. That's kind of dying with the modern era of information. But you do definitely have to put in your time and bust your ass. And I did. And I think it took me like 7 or 8 years to get my union card, which even that was very lucky for me. I kind of got in a non-traditional way. They ended up giving a special skills waiver because of a situation on a TV show that I was running. They don't like to do that. They do not like to give the okay, this guy, knew something that it had to be him. He had to do it. So I got lucky that my department had fought for me and that I had, the papers they required. Yeah. So I'll always be grateful to him for that. And I guess that's what I'm doing now.
If there was someone like, say, Dick Smith that you could work with or collab with in your field, who would it be?
I think I've actually managed to work with the people that I would want to be side by side with. I've been very fortunate to make the contacts I've made and be in with the people that I'm in. I don't have, obviously being at least doing a makeup or something with everyone you can in the business would be cool. But I don't think I really have a strong desire for any particular person that I haven't worked with already. So I guess I'm pretty fortunate in that regard.
What would you say is the biggest misconception about, especially this sort of, because this isn't, for the viewers at home, how many different kinds of, because you're not doing the makeup of somebody who's on like a soap walking out and, just kind of doing their lines, right? Like you are a very much kind of niche aspect of the kind of makeup oeuvre, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty specialized job. I mean, it does help to know how to do regular makeup. You'll get more jobs that way, and I've certainly had to bluff my way through several of those. But for the most part, I get the calls to do the specialty things. And generally for me, I've done my own shows before, but nothing huge. I kind of end up being the right-hand man or the third person from the left. Which is actually, it's fine with me. I do enjoy being the guy that gets to do the work because the department head doesn't get to often. They have to deal with so many other things. They'll do the makeup tests, but then they have to deal with everything else that goes with it and kind of orchestrate everything. So, I would get to do the makeup according to their specifications while they have to go do something else. So that's my preferred place to be. What was the question? I fucking sidestepped. What was
no, I tossed it to you sideways. It's all good. What would you say is the biggest misconception about your specific type, or if there is one with it being kind of lumped in with just because I think a lot of people assume that there is one hair and makeup, kind of booth at any given, kind of film project, which to my understanding is not in fact the case. So what would you say is like a misconception that when you talk about what you do for a living, that people kind of often like, oh, so this, and you're like, no.
I guess in that regard, I could probably say that it's when you say the words special effects, most people start thinking of fire, explosions, and things like that, which, and their department is called special effects, but special effects makeup is not that at all. So, I mean, but that's an easy one to clear up. I guess another misconception is a common one, especially when it comes to awards season, is who did what. And the department head of the show, a lot of people would think like, oh, they do everything. And that's not the case. Sometimes they do nothing. But yeah, a lot going on, a lot of politics. But I guess the SFX one, special effects one, is probably the most common thing. We don't blow up cars. Those are other guys.
So while people think that you do blow up cars, is there something people don't realize that you would say is your favorite non-obvious aspect to being, in special effects or prosthetic makeup, however you prefer to typify it?
No, nothing in that exact question. Nothing actually really comes to mind. Something that people assume I do.
No, what's something that people don't know you do that is your fit? Like, what's your? I guess I can just ask it as a boilerplate question as opposed to trying to like shape it a little bit more. What's your favorite non-obvious aspect to doing special effects makeup?
Probably the shop work where you do all your life casting, sculpting, molding, the things that don't happen on set per se. Mm-hmm. There is a lot of prep that goes into, having a prosthetic appliance to put on someone, whether it's to make them old, make them a different weight or younger, or cut their throat. Like there's a lot of prep that goes into that. And most people don't realize that you do that. And not everybody does do all that. Not everyone is that rounded. Some people just do the makeup. Some people just do the shop work. I like to do everything from start to finish. Like my perfect world is to have somebody say, there is one makeup in this movie, this character, and that's your character. And that's all you got to do is just take care of him. Like, awesome. So I get to do his life cast, or today, sometimes it's a 3D scan. There's a lot of 3D printing in our business now. Mm-hmm. But do the life cast, do the mold work, do the sculpture, cast everything up, paint everything, and then go to set and glue it on and tie it all together. All that from start to finish is my ideal, my perfect world. It rarely happens, though I do get to do a lot of the shop work, because that's where I came from. That's where you have to start. If you want to be a special effects specialist in particular, if you 9 times out of 10, they start in the shop. So you know how to do all that stuff. And then you would go to set with it. That would be like the natural progression. So I guess the shop work is my answer.
Love it. Now, this one might be kind of a difficult one to answer. So if it doesn't fit right, let me kind of ask it another way. What is the average day in the life of a special effects makeup artist? Like, is it so divergent day to day where you can't really nail it down? Or is there like a fairly common like rhythm, albeit with the different hats on? I guess there's 2 different worlds, the pre-production world or the shop world, and then the being on set world. So it would be 2 different answers. All right, if you got them, hit me with them.
Okay. The shop work is generally feels a lot like a structured environment. It's not 9 to 5. You're usually working more than 8 hours, sometimes quite a bit more than that. But nothing like set. When you're on set, you're working 12 to 20 hours. It's pretty ridiculous. Can be. Actually, in the last few years, it's been pretty tame, like 12, 14 hours tops. But I've definitely worked 22 hours and been up for 40-something hours to do what I do. So when you're in the shop, usually you start at 8 or 9 and work 5 to 6, or until you get something done. You might have to like, oh, I need to finish making this mold. I'm going to stay till 8. And that's kind of the Monday through Friday or Monday through Saturday. As deadlines approach, it could be 7 days a week. Just depends. When you're on set, it's a totally different animal, especially when you're traveling. I do more travel work than local work personally, out of country or at least out of state. And when you're in that mode, it's very different. You end up working usually as often as you can. They have like union dictates certain things they have to respect, which are like your turnaround time, for example.
Yeah.
You have to have a certain amount of time between the next time they can call you into work. And if they
Is
invade
it 10
that
or
time,
12 hours, right?
actually it's like 8 or 9.
Oh, no.
Actors are 12.
Yes, of course.
Yes, they have to look nice. They have to be well rested. That's definitely a different side of the business. The worker bees, however, you don't have to look any certain way. You just have to have your eyes open and keep your hands moving. But I'm not bitter. But if they do invade your time, they pay dearly for it. They will have to pay you double for the day, if not more, if they try to get you up before a certain time.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do that. They don't like to do that, but sometimes they have to do that.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where it's like, I'd kind of rather be asleep. Sometimes the money is like, all right, I'm getting my ass up for this. But yeah, typically you'll work 12 to 18 hours a day, and on Monday you might start at 7 in the morning. And by Friday, you're working an overnight because they keep having to push back because of those turnaround times. Or sometimes they have to switch over to nights, and then you have to find a way to stay up late and sleep late so you can transfer over. And then by Monday, you have to get back up at 6 in the morning again. And when you're on location, it's quite a bit different too than local. I actually really like being on location. You get to travel. That's a big reason I got into this business, was to travel around the world and make monsters. And I've definitely gotten to do that quite a few times.
It sounds like a supervillain trying to upsell himself on a dating website. It's like Dr. Sinister was on eHarmony. Yes, I like to travel around the world and just make monsters and see the places.
It's what I do.
It's about the venue, really. At the end of the day, it's like, sir, there is a giant red diamond in your forehead and chest. Yeah. Don't get past that though. I'm really about seeing the Andes this year.
Well, I did get to make a monster in Italy last year, which was cool. I was part of a team that made it.
Sweet.
But it was awesome. I got to go to Rome and make a demon. It was cool.
Before we close out this lovely and passionate segment, what's your favorite monster or horrific scene that you've got to bring to life?
Oh man, that question, I get it a lot, and it's always so hard to answer.
I'm sorry.
Sorry?
I'll give you. I said I'm sorry. I'll give you. I'll make it a little easier on you. Top, the Olympic podium. You got a top 3?
So do you want the makeups or do you want the movies? Because there's a big difference.
Whichever you prefer.
All right. And do you want the most fun I had on the set, or the coolest makeup that I was like, that's fucking cool?
The latter, the coolest fucking makeup.
Okay. Maybe I can give an answer that satisfies both. I worked on that Fox TV show Sleepy Hollow for all of the seasons. I was not the department head, but I ran the shop for it. But I actually got to go to set for it a lot because our time constraints were, so tight. We build in LA and have to go to Georgia. So I would take everything on a plane with me on a Saturday, go help with the makeup Monday through Thursday, then go back and start the next episode. And a lot of the makeups on that show were just super fun. And given the time that we had to do them, sometimes you were like, this is actually a really cool makeup. So I can't give you a specific, but I must say that TV show on the overall was probably the most fun, highest volume, and just some of the coolest makeups that we got to be involved in. Yeah, I would say that one. And then Let me see. Actually, the job I just spoke of in Italy was a lot of fun. I worked for the person who won the last Oscar, actually. He was my department head / boss, and he's a good friend of mine. I actually really like him. But we got to make a demon for a movie that I can't fully talk about yet. But it was really fun. It was super cool. So yeah.
Awesome. All right, well, to move on from something so villainously lovely to something so obnoxiously annoying, Joe, what is your preposterous peeve?
Oh, I forgot we haven't done that yet. I have a laundry list of these, but off the top of my head, I must give it to something that seems so asinine, but it's when somebody says, I could care less. I could care less about that. What they should be saying is, I couldn't care less, because then you couldn't possibly care less, meaning you don't care at all, not one iota. If you could care less, you in fact do care a little. And when people say this thing, they're trying to act all tough and I could care less about that. And to me, they just sound so stupid. And I'm sure you can hear me, like my blood's boiling right now. And this happens all the time. And even if I'm watching a movie and someone says it, I'm like, like
how cathartic is it when you watch a movie and somebody says that and then you're kind of stand and goes, don't you mean, and like corrects them?
I don't know that that's happened yet, but I will say it's quite cathartic when someone says it correctly, because it's like time slows down for me, you know. They'll be like, I could, and my blood starts boiling right there, and then they say, care less. I'm like, oh, thank God. My man right there. Like, that's a tough dude right there, because he couldn't possibly care less.
So were you just always a big fan of grammar, or where did this stem from? Like, where is this?
Yes, vocab words were I look so forward to the vocab word of the day. No, I don't know. Actually, that's an interesting question. I have no idea where it stems from. No, I'm not like a grammar Nazi or whatever you want to call it. I just think, I don't know, maybe it comes from like people. I have a real problem with people who think that, and this might not even pertain, but people who think they're like better than someone, or someone talking down to someone. And maybe at some point in my life, somebody was doing that and they said that, and then it like just completely invalidated everything they said, because I'm like, oh my God, you think you're hot shit, but you can't even fucking talk right. Talk correctly. Sorry.
You think you're hot shit in a champagne glass, but you're cold diarrhea in a Dixie cup.
I'm going to say that next time someone says it.
You can thank Doc Hammer.
Oh, dude, is that what it came from?
Yeah.
I was a big Venture Brothers fan.
Yeah.
I heard the movie got greenlit.
Yeah, the movie got greenlit. It's coming out soon. Very excited. So, is there do you have a story of when this particular peeve really made a day different?
Yeah, it's usually a quick flare-up. I'd love to be able to tell you a story where I got in a fight with someone over it or something, but it's
rolled up the sleeves.
Yeah, like, that's it! This is the third time today!
You're going to be my inspiration at work tomorrow.
No, it's usually just a quick, flippant thing, you know. Then most people look at me like, really? That's... Just let it go. I'm like, I can't. I fucking can't.
Well, speaking of letting it go, does this ever become... Have you had to, like... Have you lost friends? Has it, like, ever made, like, work difficult? Does this, like... Is this peeve ever, like, make real life a problem for you?
No, it's not a thing like that. Like I said, it's usually, like, a quick temper flare, or, like, something that's, like, a twitch thing, like... I don't know. I'm sure there's been some situation where maybe I was at work and, you know, I have to mind my P's and Q's and my eyeball twitched when someone said it, but I couldn't really say anything about it.
You can keep it internal if the situation demands it.
Yeah, if I have to. I wouldn't be like, Mr. Spielberg. The phrase is, I couldn't care less. Get this guy off my fucking set.
I'm not sure in that the way you're telling that, if you're telling Spielberg to get off your fucking set or if Spielberg telling you to get off his fucking set is the best part of that bit.
I think it would be funny both ways.
Yeah, it works. It holds up. I mean, like, if Steven Spielberg, of all people, fucked that up, like, he probably should get off the set. He's having an off day and or is a replicant and
Right?
needs to be
Like-
disposed of. Like, that's not... The real Steven Spielberg isn't fucking that one up.
No, he needs to be on his shit. Like, so, you know, I think if he himself,
And if he's not going to be on his
saying
shit, you should be on it.
that- if he himself caught himself saying that, I think he would just say, you're right, Joe. I'm just going to pack my things. Can you take over for me? I have to rethink my entire life. It's over for me.
I need to care more. All right, and with that hyperbolic hysteria, we're going to head to our second ad break, but don't go anywhere, because when we get back, Joe is going to enter the lightning round.
Ooh.
Have you ran out of new stuff to do, rendering your life wholly unsatisfying? Do you have too much time on hand and have no idea what to do with it? Or are you just plain over this existence and wish for a plane with more intrigue? Might I introduce you to Addiction? Addiction deals with all these problems and more. Had to meet your significant other's parents and would rather not? Addiction. Had to go to work for the third day in a row? Addiction. Rent? Why not? Addiction. Addiction cannot be held responsible for your choice of choosing to imbibe in addiction. Any and all life-destroying fallout as a result of addiction cannot be legally pinned on addiction. But you're more than welcome to try. And we're back. Joe, are you ready to enter lightning round?
The lightning round?
I was born ready. Let's do this. I love lightning.
All right, put however much time it takes to bake this cookie on the clock. Joe, is there a price for you to give up your passion forever?
Yes. Yeah, probably. I could do it maybe for $1 million, $2 million, million.
Reasonable.
A livable amount of money for the rest of my life.
Make the food or do the dishes.
Oh, make the food.
Did you ever cheat on a test in school?
Probably.
Do you
I
believe
want to
that-
get more specific with these if I can.
No, it's
Okay.
fine. Do you believe that your life will have any significant impact on the world and human history?
I'd like to think so, but probably not.
Would you rather have your inner monologue sound like Gilbert Gottfried or Fran Drescher?
Ugh, Jesus. I gotta pick Godfrey because he's super funny. I like him.
Does everything happen for a reason?
No, but if you look back at it, maybe you think that you can make shit up. No, the answer is no.
Pineapple on pizza or fist fight?
Fist fight. Jesus Christ, fist fight all day.
You're having the best day of your life. What happens next? Another amazing thing or something terrible?
Oh, probably juxtaposed, probably terrible, but hopefully not.
Is professional wrestling cool or lame?
Somewhere in between.
Nick Cage, best or worst ever?
Somewhere in between. It's probably the worst ever, but you gotta love him.
Are soups smoothies?
What? No.
Do you create your own thoughts or do you just listen to them?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. I might actually just listen to them now that you mention it. Holy shit.
Would you rather there was no line at checkout or the fast food place always give you a large fry when you ask for a medium?
No line.
Cheese fries, an abomination or gift from God?
Gift from God.
Album, shuffle, or playlist?
Shuffle.
Pulp Fiction or No Country for Old Men?
Pulp Fiction.
Is there such a thing as a perfect piece of art?
No. Hell no.
Have you ever had a crush on a cartoon character?
Yep.
Are you out of touch, or is it the children who are wrong?
Fucking kids. Goddamn. Get off my lawn. Goddamn, you're fucking wrong.
What is more important, freedom or structure?
Oh, man, I gotta give it to freedom.
The all-American answer.
I mean, structure is probably needed. That's why it's a hard answer. I won't ramble. It's a lightning round, but freedom probably better. Structure also required.
Communicate only in emojis or never text again?
Never text again.
Would you rather have tentacle arms or kangaroo legs?
Huh. Probably the roo legs. Seems more useful.
Would you rather climb Everest or walk all the way around North America?
Oh, those both sound awful. I guess I'd walk around North America. Less chance of dying.
Yeah. Would you rather be able to teleport through 2 walls a day or control every tube TV with your mind?
Walls. Totally walls.
No internet ever again? Or the internet streams directly into your brain at all times?
The second thing, all times. Yeah, give me the internet.
Would you rather be a human in a world of Muppets or a Muppet in a world of humans?
I mean, these are the questions that keep you up at night. You know what I mean? Probably the human in a Muppet world. I'd be their god.
Would you rather meet an extraterrestrial or a ghost?
Terrestrial. Extra.
I would like extraterrestrial, please.
Terrestrial comma extra.
That's his given name. Muzak at all times that only you can hear, or a live studio audience that everyone can hear.
Oh, live studio audience that everyone could hear. That's awesome.
Surf or turf?
Turf.
And lastly, could you eat 37 of your favorite food for $5,000 in a 1-hour time limit?
I would fucking try my hardest.
Well, congratulations, you survived the lightning round!
Oh, man.
Now, before we move on, I, like many listeners at home, would like to now know, what is your favorite food that you would try to eat 37 of in a 1-hour time limit for $5,000?
Key lime pie.
Hell yes. Found him. Winner. Game,
Ding, ding,
set,
ding, ding.
match. Now, are you of the same, what okay, before I get too excited, what is your feeling on the key lime pie that you can buy at Vaughn's, like the 2-pack? I'm trying to remember the company. It's like Edwards or something like that. You can buy like single slices.
I don't know that I've had it. I'm sure it's inferior.
What is your preferred creator of the key lime pie?
I don't think I have a brand. The best one I've had is actually when I lived in Florida for like authentic key lime pie. There was a restaurant called.
You had to go down to the Keys.
You have to go to the source. You had to dive, get your own keys, your own limes.
It's a box you have to open on the Keys that's made of limes.
Right, so you got to make this shit happen. No, there was a restaurant called Cheeseburger in Paradise, based after that song by that guy. And they had the best key lime pie. And I think that's probably where I got introduced to it. I have a super sweet tooth, and the tart flavor of key lime pie is just like, I absolutely love it. It's to the point where I actually try not to eat it so often so it stays special. It's like one of those things in my life. But a lot of people miss, you have to sprinkle a little nutmeg on it. You really do. And that's what the frozen shit's missing. Besides,
everything else.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you. I take it you're a man of the pie as well.
I'm a man of the key pie.
There you go.
Oh, yes.
Good.
Sadly, one of the best, I was having not a rough patch. I was having a rough day with my then girlfriend. It's like 2017 and maybe 2018. I don't know, one of those two. And she had the story time, I guess.
Let's hit me.
So, girlfriend's coming over. I need to take a shower. She messages, "Hey, I'm on my way." I was like, "Cool. I'm stepping into the shower. I'll leave the door unlocked for you." Leave the door unlocked. Live in a decent enough part of Santa Rosa. Not really worried about it. Not street facing apartment. Nobody's gonna like randomly saunter up to a deck on like back facing. I'll be fine. Take a shower. Don't take a long one. I'm not a long shower taker. 10 minutes tops. I get out. Haley. Nothing. Go check the door. It's still unlocked. Maybe she didn't come in. Getting that vibe though. Didn't hear anything, but getting that vibe. I'm like, I think she's here. Really hope she's not trying to scare me because I'm not a big fan of that. A la like my dad doing that when I was like 6. He thought it was hilarious because he's my dad.
Yeah, right.
And so I go back there and I look in and I push the door to try to be flush with the wall. And it won't. I'm initially like, oh shit, she's back there. And no sound is made. And I think I called her name again and nothing. And I was like, oh yeah, I bought like my, I have like a fucking, like a shower jacket. The fucking like the shit you'd wear if you went to like a sauna or something like that. Like shower jacket on the back of my door. That's what's stuck between me and like my door and the wall. Okay. I take one step inside and I see the shower jacket hanging somewhere else. I'm like, fuck. Dun, dun. And she jumps out and is like, bah! And I really wasn't about it. I like yelled bloody murder at her, to which her response was appreciatively like, fuck, something's wrong with this guy. And then instead of like doing anything else to her other than what I had already done, I took my phone and just threw it against the wall.
Jesus.
Breaking my phone. I apologized profusely. She apologized profusely. We were both sad, angry, and freaked out. Ended up going and getting a new phone that I had to buy when I was going back to college at the time. So it was basically all the money that I had.
Right.
And she was like, really sorry. I was like, no, it's not your fault. And she's like, no, like blah, 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 blah. And she's like, okay, how about this? She had a job at the time, but I didn't. She's like, I'll take you out for dinner and then you can do something for me. I don't remember what it was, but I was like, yeah, sure. And we went up to this place. It was like this nice kind of kitschy area of like the North Bay. And they had a key lime pie martini.
Ooh, I've had those.
Fuck yes. Yeah. Oh my God. I don't generally fuck with like highbrow cocktails. I'm a bitch. The way I describe myself, and no shade to anybody that drinks this, I do not take this as a detriment other than my classism. But I like when I go out to drink, people are like, what do you like? I'm like, Guinness or something an 18-year-old would order if they were if they had like a fake ID. So like Smirnoff, like something high, a highbrow Smirnoff or something like that. If somebody gets me bourbon, they're just might as well light it on fire or throw it away. It's just like going to waste.
All right.
And this was like perfect. It was the right amount of like, it got me a little roasty toasty, but I could, it was still delicious. It looked great. I was, living my best life. 3 months later, there were fires in North Bay and that restaurant burned to the ground.
No.
Yeah, I was very crestfallen. It was sad such times.
And crestfallen is a word you so rarely get to use, but and nothing a little key lime pie couldn't cure.
Fact.
I haven't had it in a minute, actually. I'm due.
I put a test to you before I give you a chance to ask your long-awaited lightning round question. Apologize for the gigantic interlude. As we're both now LA residents, I challenge thee to find the best key lime pie, and whoever finds the best key lime pie has to buy, or doesn't have to buy.
Okay. Yeah, I think House of Pie makes a good one in NoHo, but I'll have to go again to be sure. Or Republic of Pie, that's what it's called. If it's even still there, who knows? COVID probably murdered it with everything else.
Yeah, COVID murdered too much. Speaking of things that COVID didn't murder, however, what is there a lightning round question you have for me and in turn future guests?
Would you rather have permanent clown shoes, squeaky clown shoes for feet, or a permanent clown nose for a nose?
I'm not that quiet when I walk anyway, so I'll take the squeaky clown shoes for feet.
Most people do, my friend. Most people do.
What about yourself?
I've never posed the question to myself. I'd probably take the shoes too. I mean, I'll cop out. The nose is just so hard to deal with, you know? The shoes I can make up an excuse for, you know. Whenever I think about this, the first thing I think of is like the next time I'm in bed with a girl. Like, which one is easier to explain away? And it's got to be the shoes. I just say, like, I like it with the shoes on, babe. Sorry. It's the thing. You got to do it.
I like it with the shoes on.
Squeak, squeak.
Well, as we come to a close here, my friend, is there anything you want to plug, shout-outs you'd like to give, places people can find you or your content?
I mean, I'm on Instagram, though I don't use it much anymore. Joe BADIALI, MUFX. Other than that, no, not really. Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. That's it. I'm a lone wolf. I plug myself. How about that? Hey, me. Yes. Now give me that pie.
Well, thank you, Joe, for being my guest today. And a special thanks to my editor, Richard Ashford, and my composer, Joshua Gibbons. And thank you. Yes, you listening at home. However you found time to appreciate this. Time is the most precious commodity we have, and I appreciate you spending yours with us. And if you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, or just share with a friend. Every little bit helps. Or if you already have and are out of episodes to listen to, don't worry. We put out a new episode every Monday at midnight on Soundcloud, YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes at Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast. And a very special thanks are due to our patrons, Sibella Yellow. And if you'd like to join said illustrious ranks and have your name read aloud, just head over to patreon.com/Passionate People and Preposterous Peeves podcast. And remember, folks, if days are numbered and songs are sung, at the end of the day, I think we've all won. So please stick around, because great things have only just begun.